Hello and welcome to Written Words, and this video is another in my More Than a Book review series. I'm still concentrating on GCSE texts, and my last video looked at Macbeth. So this video is going to take a closer look at one particular version of Macbeth. It's from the Shakespeare Made Easy series. This particular copy I bought a very long time ago, back in the 1980s, when I was studying Shakespeare for my GCSE. And I was looking for a book that would help me understand Shakespeare's language. And needless to say, as I mentioned in my previous videos, my son is now studying for his GCSEs and he's also doing Macbeth. So I dug my copy back out and read it, and was pleased to find that I enjoyed it just as much as I had the first time round, if not perhaps more. When I looked it up on the internet, I was expecting to find that it had gone out of print years ago, but actually it does seem to still be in print, albeit with a different cover now, which does go to show that people still must be finding it useful now. The book itself has parallel text. It contains the original Shakespeare version down one side and then a modern English version down the other side. So it doesn't replace Shakespeare's original version. It just complements it so that students can understand it better. It is perhaps easier on the eye than some of the more academic versions where there are lots and lots of notes. For example, this is a copy of Hamlet from the Arden series. These versions contain a lot of notes, which are useful and interesting, but it could be quite off-putting to somebody coming to Shakespeare for the first time, especially somebody younger, a teenager studying Shakespeare for the first time at school. Because if we look at a sample page, on this page, there is the Shakespeare text at the top, and the rest of the page is notes. So there's a lot to plough through before you can actually get to the actual story. So this version is perhaps more user-friendly for young people who are exploring Shakespeare for the first time. It's less off-putting. So it's perhaps just right for GCSE level. I would say if you were studying Shakespeare at a higher level, perhaps A level or university level, then you might want something a bit more academic than this, but this is good for an initial foray into Shakespeare. One thing that I found that the modern version does in this book, as well as modernising the language, it also adds extra stage directions, which can be lacking in the original Shakespeare. There can be parts in the play where it's not always obvious from the original text who is speaking to whom, or whether this is an aside rather than two characters speaking together. So the additional stage directions make that plainer to make it easier to understand what's going on. So let's take a look at a small sample. It comes from Macbeth's soliloquy when he is just about to commit the murder. The original goes like this. Is this a dagger which I see before me, the handle toward my hand? Come, let me clutch thee. I have thee not, and yet I see thee still. Art thou not, fatal vision, sensible to feeling as to sight? Or art thou but a dagger of the mind, a false creation, proceeding from the heat-oppressed brain? I see thee yet in form as palpable as this which now I draw. Thou marshall'st me the way that I was going, and such an instrument I was to use. Mine eyes are made the fools of the other senses, or else worth all the rest. I see thee still, and on thy blade and dudgeon gouts of blood, which was not so before. And the modern version, with extra stage directions, looks like this. Is this a dagger I can see before me, with its handle towards my hand? Speaking to it. Come, let me hold you. He snatches at the empty air. Nothing there, yet I can see you. Can you be felt as well as seen? Or are you just an imaginary dagger, the invention of a sick mind? He closes his eyes, then looks again. Still there, and, taking his own dagger from its sheath, looking just as solid as the one I'm drawing now. Excitedly, It's pointing the way I meant to go, and a dagger was my chosen weapon. Doubt creeps in. My eyes could be fooling me. More confidently. More likely they're worth all my other senses put together. He blinks hard. Still there, with clots of blood on the blade and handle that weren't there before. So that's an example from the play itself. But in addition to the actual play, the original text, and a modern English version, there are some extra parts which also add to the book's usefulness. There is an interesting introduction which states that the book is intended for readers approaching the plays for the first time who find the language of Elizabethan poetic drama an initial obstacle to understanding and enjoyment. And he goes on to point out that the book has been inspired by those generations of students who have complained that Shakespeare was ruined for me at school. So it's intended to be an antidote to that. Then there is some background about Shakespeare and his plays, why he wrote the plays, a brief summary of the historical context, and a little bit about the language and his writing style. And then at the end of the book, there is a lot of additional study material. There are questions about characters and themes and some guided close reading. There are also some typical exam questions and a couple of quick quizzes to aid learning as well. So here's a sample of the exam questions. If you have read Macbeth and would like to explore it a little further, why not try having a go at this question? What prevents Macbeth from being nothing more than the story of a ruthless and ambitious murderer? Basically, it's asking, why is Macbeth special? Why is it more than just an ordinary murder story? So back in the 1980s, when I was studying Macbeth, I certainly found this an interesting and enjoyable read. It was my first experience of Shakespeare, and to this day, Macbeth remains my favourite of his plays. Are you studying Shakespeare now? Or did you study Shakespeare some time ago like me back in school? And if so, what did you study? And what is your favourite play now? In my next video, I'll be moving on to another GCSE text, but in the meantime, thank you very much for joining me in this video. I look forward to seeing you in the next one, and in the meantime, happy reading and happy writing.